like a woolly jumper. Well, hello. We are at a nice little location for you today.
We actually found it was a wee surprise to us. We went for a walk in the woods, as
we always do.
Naturally, we went looking for fairies.
So we're walking along looking for a nice location, and I thought, that bit's fenced off. What the hell's going on?
Like a garden or something.
I know.
As we got past, you'll see just back there. Can you see it?
There you go.
There's a wee kind of walkway over, and we're like, oh, which came to a gate.
It kind of looked like a bit of a sort of paddock, almost like a horse's paddock, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a little plaque which I'm going to show you, and it's a Roman watchtower.
In the far north of their empire, the Romans built this watchtower as part of a defence network today as known as the Gasque Frontier. Serving as observation points, this line of watchtowers was the first example in Britain of an artificial border under permanent surveillance.
Ooh.
And basically the rest of it just reads that they came into Scotland, they got quite far, and then they got their arses kicked and couldn't handle the terrain and buggered off back down south and built a big fucking wall to keep us out, right?
Exactly. So just in case you don't know about the history of the Roman Empire, for those across the pond, the Romans basically conquered
all of Europe, pretty much.
All of Europe. And anyway, it's written into history that the Roman Empire went from such and such a place all the way up to the northern borders of England, which basically means they got to Scotland and they got their asses kicked. So if you've ever heard of Hadrian's Wall, Hadrian was the Roman emperor, Caesar person at the time. Whatever. Anyway, the Roman boss at the time,
it wasn't built to. It was built to keep us out, really.
It was built to keep the Scots out. The painted, what do they call it? The painted Picts from the north were basically barbarians. Yeah, the Scots were too strong and unpredictable, and
savages.
So the Romans thought, to hell with this, let's just build a wall instead.
Yeah, let's keep them out, now we're safe.
They'd conquer, I mean, let's face it, Scotland's not very big, and they conquered all of Europe. They'd crossed the Channel, everything, working their way up, and they thought, nah.
See, if
I'm
I was a
done.
Roman leader, I'd be frustrated looking at the map, thinking, can't believe this little area is not ours now.
Yeah. So if you looked at the UK, England is full of Roman technology and Roman history. Scotland, there's a few bits and pieces, because they did come into Scotland and put up like a few forts, watchtowers like this one here, but they didn't settle, and there's certainly not much Roman stuff around. There's more sort of Scottish castles and whatnot from well before that time. So let's come round here, and
it's just like a field, really. But
so there's the watchtower, isn't it fantastic?
oh look,
So there we are. You can see a little bit of it. You can see a basic shape. Maybe not on camera actually. You can see a basic shape. You can. How they knew this was a watchtower, I have no idea. They must have done that whole geo-surveying thing with the scanners, because to me it just looks like a field. It looks like a paddock for a horse. So yeah.
Right, we're going to get set up and we're going to give you our workout. It's like a gun. Straight shooter. Is that Robocop that did that? Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
What was the name of the programme that you learned it from?
Oh, it's like somebody.
Oh
shit! It's a guy's name, but he's got a name like, it's not like Buzz Lightyear, but it's something like.
Actually, I only know half of it. It's TJ.
TJ Laser.
TJ Laser.
TJ Laser. Yeah. Damn. I always think of Robocop when I see baby food, actually.
Yeah, because he eats baby food, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Jars of baby food.
Yeah. Right, so we've got the workout today, so we're in this lovely Roman fort.
Yeah, so a little bit of education first. So we're talking about realigning or rewiring your body due to imbalances.
Now, sometimes that can happen for a number of reasons, you know. I mean, ultimately, to break that down by definition, is that your body's using the less efficient muscles to do a particular movement, okay? So in sprinters, if we're working with athletes, it tends to be that they're not using their glutes, or football, soccer to you Americans, because they kick the ball all the time. The mind's connection with the quads is very heavy, so when they sprint, they don't tend to use the glutes, so that's something we'd have to work with.
Yeah. So to give you an example, a personal example from me personally, when I was in the forces, we did a lot of tricep press-ups, okay? So that's a narrow position, and we basically pushed from here. So as a result, the front of my deltoids, the front shoulder, are overactive, okay, because that was one of the prime movers for that movement. And ever since, I mean, this has been 12 years now, I've had to really sort of stretch those muscles out before I do any sort of bench pressing and normal press-ups now, because my shoulders just take over from every single movement. So it's a less efficient way for my body to work, but it's because they're sort of stronger, they're more switched on, it's a better mind-muscle connection that I've got with my shoulders. So you need to deactivate that. So this is what we're talking about.
And then another example is during pregnancy. Okay, so for a number of reasons, if you've not necessarily if you've had a section, but if you have a section, what happens is the body says, right, okay, the abs are damaged, so we're going to look for other muscles to do the simple tasks like sitting up or pulling yourself up from the ground. The problem is that if you don't sort that afterwards, the brain will continue to use those muscles that it's recently rehearsed, and then you end up with all sorts of problems.
Even if you've not had a C-section, a normal pregnancy, while you're kind of here, if you've got a lot of weight at the front, plus the baby actually stretches your abs out anyway, but then you've got to contend with that weight. So then what you end up doing is just sort of leaning back slightly. So your lower back becomes super, super tight, and your abs become completely switched off because they're being stretched. Now, we stretch after exercise, okay? It's a static stretches where you do this type of thing. A static stretch deactivates the muscle. That's why it's good after exercise. But during pregnancy, you're stretching the muscles for 9 months. So they're completely inactive. So even without the section, the muscles are not switched on. We need to re-switch them on. Re-switch them on? Is that the right England?
Sounds like good England. We're on the ball with this today, aren't we?
Yeah, we can't think properly.
Back to school for the Kilted coaches.
So we're going to rewire the abs. We're going to fire them up to make sure they're functioning properly, and we're going to rebalance the body by stretching out the lower back and tightening up the abs.
You know, another category that this would apply to is anyone, male or female, that sits at a desk at a computer for long periods of time, hunched over, you know. Again, that would mean certain other muscle groups will be neglected, and simple movements, depending on how far your hand is from the desk, the keyboard, the mouse, you know, your brain will start rewiring and using all the wrong muscles for that movement. So yeah, this routine that we're going to give you would definitely help that too.
Yeah. Although we're not going to talk about the glutes specifically, because we've done other videos on the glutes, because what we're looking at is if you're in a seated position, then say a stretched muscle becomes deactivated. So as you're sitting down, you're stretching the glutes and you're putting pressure on it, which actually sort of almost massages out.
Yeah,
okay?
stretches
so you're
and
stretching massively. So if you go for a sports massage, if you've got a tight muscle, then the sports massage therapist will strip a muscle out, okay? So they'll push, so put pressure on it, and they'll stretch out because it deactivates it, makes you feel better. That's exactly what you're doing to your glutes every single day when you're sitting down. You're stretching it and you're putting pressure on it, so it becomes completely deactivated. So never neglect your glutes. Although we're not going to talk about it in this video, go watch your glute video, which we'll link in the description.
Yep.
Remember to do that. And so we'll link that video, but what we're going to talk about this video is activating the abs, stretching out your lower back.
Let's muscle up, Buttercup.
And let's get stuck in.
Right. Gonna go for a sleep. Okay, now what we're going to do is just a very, very basic sort of floor Pilates movement, okay? So if Stephen relaxes his head down in the wet grass, okay, hands by his side, okay? Now what we're going to do, we're going to attempt to engage the core. Now if you know how to engage the core, you can do so. If not, a nice little trick you can do is, we're looking at his legs here, we'll get the right angle, or no, sorry, the correct angle. Right, so from there, what I'm going to ask Stephen to do is he's going to attempt to lift the legs off the ground, okay? Just before they leave the ground, he should feel his tummy go tight. So it's that point just before. We'll actually see a change in the abdominals. Ooh. Okay, just before the feet leave the ground. Okay, now so from there, what he's done is that's him engaged the core. So again, if you know how to engage your core using other methods, great. This is just a really straightforward one. Okay, now from there, his tummy will feel nice and tight. So now what I'm going to ask him to do is his hands are by his side. I'm going to ask him to try and push his hands into the grass as hard as he can for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And he can release the hands there, okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to build this up slightly, okay? So we're going to ask him to bring his knees together, okay, hands by his side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to ask him to push his hands down and squeeze the knees together. Ready? Go! For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. And then just to really ruin his day, I'm going to ask him to bring his hands up off the ground, palms together and bring them up in, towards the face. Got a mumble there. Yep, just pray. Okay, so from there, I'm going to ask you to squeeze the hands together, knees together, and then drive the feet into the floor. Go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax there, buddy. So that's just some very, very basic techniques. Now you would repeat that 2 or 3 times over to really activate the abs. It's telling the brain, use these muscles. When I'm working with clients, I would tend to do this if they were doing a crunch and they say, Rab, I don't really feel that in my abs. We would do this first. And then go into the ab routine, and then what they tend to find is, oh yeah, I felt that in my abs now, because it's telling the brain, use these muscles.
There we are.
Tom Hardy's on the go.
Yeah, look at this Tom Hardy's, look. Whoa, look at that! So, next up, what we're going to do is we're going to start to balance out the lower abs with the lower back, because typically the lower back becomes very, very tight and the abs are completely switched off. So in order to switch the abs on, we first have to switch the lower back off. Okay, so in order to do that, it's a simple lower back stretch. Rab is going to bend over.
Oh, just standing here.
So turn to the side so the audience can see it. So there we are. So all we're going to do is we're going to slowly drop the head and the spine all the way down, one vertebrae at a time. Bend the legs slightly so that we can take the stretch off the hamstrings, and then what to do is hold on to the back of your calves. I'll show you that, back of the calves, and then imagine you're trying to get your lower back as close to the sky as possible. So you brace the abs, squeeze the abs, and push your lower back upwards, and you should just feel a nice gentle stretch through the lower back. We'll hold that for about 30 seconds-ish. And then when you're ready, we can slowly come back up again, restacking the spine one vertebrae at a time. Now you can do that several times if you want to, depending on how tight your lower back is. Okay, now from there, what we're going to do is we're going to lie down on the floor.
I apologise in advance if you see any things you shouldn't see.
Always the case with abs, right? You know there's a lot of squirrels around here, right? They might be looking for some nuts.
Like you were calling mine a squirrel.
Well, there's 2 types of squirrels in Scotland. There's grey squirrels and there's red squirrels. I think I'd have the red squirrel.
But one day you'll have a grey squirrel, right?
One day it's going to be grey. Right, so before we do anything, we're going to try and get that lower abs activated. We want to, again, try to emphasise the stretch in the lower back. So the first thing that Rab is going to do is similar to what I've just done, is we're going to brace the abs, but you're going to focus your mind on pushing your lower back to the floor. Okay, so squeeze that lower back onto the floor. Now if I try to get my hand under Rab's back, like so, I Tickle him. I shouldn't be able to put my hand under his back, okay, because he's squashing it right onto the floor, okay. That itself braces the abs, okay. Now from there, Rab is then going to lift his legs up. I'm actually going to come this way so that, oh. So yeah, nobody's going to get an eyeful, okay, so I'm going to come here. Now Rab is going to lift the legs off the floor, keep the lower back pushed onto the floor as much as you can, and then all we're going to look for is to bring the knees up as if you're trying to get your knees to touch your forehead, okay? That's the sort of angle that you're looking at, okay? So up and then down, up and then down again.
There's a Friday video.
I don't
know why I'm
there we go.
worrying, right?
We've got a good angle there, okay? So every time you bring your legs up, you're stretching out the lower back and you're activating, you're squeezing the lower abs, okay? So activating, and you're trying to shorten the gap between the top of your hips and the bottom of your ribs. Okay, so it's a very gentle movement. Now, depending on how strong you are and if you're wearing a kilt or not, you can actually bring the legs all the way up and over until you're almost doing a shoulder stand, okay? That requires a bit of strength and a bit of flexibility. I am not going to ask Rab to do that because, because he's going to flash, but that's really what you should be aiming for. You can do that sometimes within a few repetitions. You'll really start to feel the abs, and you'll be stretching out the lower back, okay? Again, as a beginner, you might want to look for sort of 3 sets of 10, and as you become more advanced, it can almost be like a pre-activation before you go into other exercises to really stretch out your lower back and getting those abs squeezed, so to rewire everything.
So yeah, 2 basic sort of tips there.
Sorry, I'm laughing because this is the second time we've done this. Sorry, that was my fault.
That's history. He forgot to push record.
I forgot to press record, so this is the second time we're doing this bit.
So we feel like repeating. It's like deja vu, right?
It's deja vu.
We need to do it all differently though. So 2 bit straightforward tips for you. So again, the sort of basic floor Pilates you could put into a little routine. So stage 1 was like just the hands on their own, then the knees and the hands knees together. You could repeat that 3, maybe 5 times. That will really activate the mind to use the abs, the brain mind muscle connection, so that when you then go on to your ab routine or any exercise in general.
Yeah, so these exercises could be standalone.
That's exactly what you said the first time.
I was actually thinking in my head, wait, what did I say last week? It sounded good.
It was bang on.
So these can be used as a standalone exercise. Oh, fuck it. Right. These can be used as a standalone exercise, depending on your fitness level, or it can be a pre-activation, sort of almost like a warm-up before you go into your normal exercise, whether it be going out for a walk, a run, doing an exercise class, even going into a weights routine or a swim, that type of thing. So you're really getting the muscles fired up, the muscles that you need to be working while you're then jumping about in a classroom, out for a jog. You want your abs and your lower abs in particular to be fired up and your lower back to be stretched out so that it's not doing most of the movements for you.
All those crunchies have brought my hairy abs out.
You don't have to go hairy.
That's unreal. Like a fucking gerbil on my belly.
See, for as long as I have known Rab, he's always told me that he goes really hairy, and that's why you always keep it trimmed,
I used to
right?
trim it, yeah.
You used to trim it at the beard
Until I got
trimmers
abuse, and then I stopped trimming it.
You got abuse from all you guys saying, "No, stop shaving your chest. No, have that fur. A real man wears fur." That's what you got all the time, right?
I've got an actual animal.
Like, holy shit! Like a woolly jumper.